Listen to me. Everything you want, everything you dream of, everything you're chasing, it all starts right here, right in your mind. You don't need more talent, more money, more connections. You need the right mindset. You need to take control of your thoughts, your beliefs, and your focus, because that's the foundation for everything else. You don't fix your mind, you don't fix your life. It's that simple. The problem is most people are letting the world tell them who they are. They're listening to every opinion, every criticism, every distraction, and wondering why they can't move forward. They're filling their minds with doubt, with excuses, with fear, and then acting surprised when they keep failing. Listen, your mind is either working for you or against you, and if you don't take control, you will lose. You have to train yourself to think differently. When you wake up, your first thoughts matter. Are you waking up thinking about what could go wrong? Thinking about the problems? Thinking about how hard it is? Or are you waking up thinking, today I get better? Today I take one more step forward. Today I get closer to my dream. See, it's a choice. You can either let your thoughts run wild, or you can take control and focus on what pushes you forward. Too many people are feeding their minds with negativity, and then they wonder why their life is filled with obstacles. You sit on social media scrolling through other people's lives, comparing yourself, feeling like you're behind. You listen to people who have never done what you're trying to do, and they tell you it's impossible. You start doubting yourself, hesitating, procrastinating, and before you know it, another year has passed, and you're in the exact same place. Why? Because you let your mind be controlled by fear instead of faith. If you want to shock the world, you have to start by shocking yourself. But you have to start by thinking differently than you ever have before. You have to wake up and decide, I am not the same person I was yesterday. I refuse to stay the same. I refuse to live in fear. I refuse to let doubt control me. And then you move. You act. You take the first step. Even if you're scared, even if you don't have it all figured out, because mindset isn't just about what you think, it's about what you do with those thoughts. Your mind is a battlefield, and every day you're in a fight. Either you win or your excuses win. Either you take control or your fears take control. You have to guard your mind like your life depends on it, because it does. That means you stop letting negativity in. That means you stop hanging around people who drain you, who doubt you, who don't see your vision. That means you stop watching things that fill your mind with nonsense. That means you start feeding your mind with things that build you up, things that push you, things that remind you of who you are and where you're going. People always say they want success, but they don't understand that success starts long before the results show up. It starts when nobody sees you grinding. It starts when you're waking up early, when you're staying up late, when you're pushing through the pain, when you're staying focused while everyone else is distracted. It starts when you develop the discipline to keep going, even when it's hard. And you can't have that kind of discipline if your mind isn't strong. Some of you are sitting there waiting for motivation, waiting for the perfect moment, waiting until you feel like it. Let me tell you something, you're going to be waiting forever. Motivation is temporary. It comes and goes. But when you have the right mindset, when you have the right focus, you don't need motivation. You move because you've trained yourself to move. You act because you built a mind that refuses to accept excuses. You work because you understand that every single step you take is building the future you want. It's time to stop playing games with your potential. It's time to stop letting your mind be controlled by fear, by doubt, by distractions. You want to shock everyone? Then start by shocking yourself. Start by proving to yourself that you are more disciplined, more focused, more committed than you ever thought possible. Wake up with purpose. Feed your mind with strength. Take action like your life depends on it, because it does. Stop worrying about what they think. Stop looking around, checking for approval, waiting for someone to tell you you're good enough. Stop letting their opinions decide how far you go. Because let me tell you something, if you keep chasing validation, you will never reach your destination. Too many people are stuck because they're too busy trying to impress people who don't even care. They're too busy explaining themselves, justifying their dreams, looking for permission. And you wonder why you're not where you want to be? It's because every time you take a step forward, you stop to check if everybody's watching, if everybody's clapping, if everybody's on your side. And let me save you some time they won't be. Not everybody's going to stay in your vision. Not everybody is going to believe in you. Not everybody is going to support you. And guess what? They don't have to, because your success is not up to them. It's up to you. Listen, the moment you stop caring about what they think is the moment you start moving differently. The moment you stop explaining yourself is the moment you start making real progress. Because as long as you're looking for validation, you're slowing yourself down. As long as you're trying to prove something to them, you're not focused on proving something to yourself. You know what happens when you cut out the noise? You start hearing yourself again. You start trusting yourself again. You start moving with confidence because you're not waiting for permission. You're not waiting for applause. You're not waiting for somebody to recognize you. You recognize yourself. Some of you are afraid to be misunderstood, afraid to be talked about, afraid to stand alone. But let me tell you, every great person who ever did something worthwhile had to go through weed. Every champion, every leader, every game changer had moments when people laughed at them, doubted them, told them they were crazy, and they kept going anyway. Because when you're locked in, when you're focused, when you truly believe in yourself, the opinions of others become irrelevant. And you don't have time to explain yourself. You don't have time to argue. You don't have time to prove anything to anybody. You're too busy working. You know why most people never make it? Because they're too distracted. They're too caught up in conversations that don't matter. They're too busy checking comments, responding to negativity, worrying about who's watching. But let me tell you something, the real ones, the ones who actually make it, they don't have time for that. They're too busy grinding. You ever notice how the loudest critics are always the ones doing the least? The ones with the most opinions are the ones who have never walked the path you're walking. That's why you can't afford to listen. That's why you have to be disciplined enough to block out the distractions. Because if you start listening to them, you'll start doubting yourself. If you start engaging with them, you'll start slowing down. And I know what some of you are thinking, but what if they're right? What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? Let me tell you something. Failure is part of the process. Struggle is part of the journey. But the only way you truly fail is if you let their voices stop you. Do you understand what I'm saying? The people who doubt you now will be the same ones acting like they always believed in you when you make it. The ones who laugh at you now will be the ones asking how you did it later. That's why you don't have to say anything. That's why you don't have to explain. Just keep working. Just keep moving. Just keep growing. Because eventually the results will speak. Eventually your success will silence every critic, every hater, every doubter. Eventually they won't have anything left to say. So stop waiting for approval. Stop looking for validation. Stop explaining yourself. Lock in, focus, and do the work. Because when you do, the same people who doubted you will have no choice but to watch you win. You say you want to be great, but what are you doing to get there? You say you want success, but are you investing in yourself every single day? Listen to me. You can't wish for it. You can't hope for it. You can't just sit around waiting for something to change. You have to invest in your growth like your future depends on it, because it does. The problem is, most people want success, but they don't want the process. They want the rewards, but they don't want to do what it takes to earn them. You think because you have talent, you're going to make it. You think because you have potential, opportunities are just going to fall into your lap. No, you have to work. You have to sharpen your skills. You have to study, practice, and push yourself every single day. You ever wonder why some people keep winning while others stay stuck? It's not luck. It's not magic. It's discipline. It's the commitment to growth. It's the mindset that says, I don't care how good I was yesterday, I have to get better today. See, some people get comfortable. They think they've arrived. They stop learning, they stop stretching, they stop pushing. And the moment you stop growing, you start dying. You have to make personal development a priority. You have to wake up every single day with the hunger to learn something new, to improve, to become stronger, smarter, better. That means you read the books. That means you study the greats. That means you invest in your craft, in your body, in your mind. That means you put yourself in environments that force you to level up. And let me tell you, this is where most people quit. Because growth is uncomfortable. It forces you to face your weaknesses. It forces you to step outside of what's easy, what's familiar. It forces you to look at yourself and say, I have more work to do. And most people don't want that. They want to stay in their comfort zone. They want to stay where it's safe. But let me tell you something, there is no success in safety. There is no transformation in comfort. If you want to separate yourself, you have to be relentless about growth. You have to get to a point where average is not acceptable, where just getting by is not enough, where every single day you're pushing yourself beyond what you thought was possible. And when people ask you, why are you doing all this? Why are you working so hard? You tell them, because I refuse to stay the same. See, growth isn't just about skill. It's about mindset. It's about resilience. It's about developing the kind of discipline that makes you unstoppable. It's about becoming the person who refuses to quit, refuses to settle, refuses to be anything less than great. And here's the truth. If you don't invest in your growth, nobody else will. Nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is going to hand you success. You have to go get it. You have to do the work. You have to build yourself into the person who is ready for the opportunities before they even show up. So what are you doing with your time? What are you feeding your mind? What habits are you building? Because every decision you make is either pushing you forward or pulling you back. Every choice is either making you stronger or making you weaker. And I'm telling you right now, if you commit to growth, if you wake up every single day with that says, I will be better today than I was yesterday, there is nothing that can stop you. Because a person who refuses to stop growing is a person who refuses to lose. Everybody wants to win. Everybody wants success. Everybody wants to change their life. But let me ask you something. Are you actually taking action? Are you actually putting in the work? Because too many people talk about what they want, but when it's time to move, when it's time to execute, they hesitate. They overthink. They wait. And then they wonder why they're stuck in the same place year after year. Listen to me, planning is good. Vision is important, but none of it matters if you don't act. None of it matters if you don't take the first step. Some of you have been sitting on the same idea for years. You've been talking about the same goals for months. You keep saying one day, someday when the time is right. But when is that? When is the perfect moment? You're waiting for everything to line up, for every detail to be perfect before you start. But let me tell you something, there is no perfect moment. There is no perfect time. The only time you have is right now. You think the greats had it all figured out before they started. You think champions waited until they had all the answers before they took the first step. No, they moved. They started before they were ready. They took risks. They failed. They adjusted. But they kept going. And that's why they made it. Because they refused to sit still. Some of you are letting fear stop you. Fear of failing. Fear of looking stupid. Fear of what people will say. But let me tell you something. Fear is a liar. Fear will keep you trapped. Fear will have you living the same life. Doing the same thing, stuck in the same cycle because you're too afraid to take action. But what if I told you that every person who has ever done something great was afraid too? The difference is they didn't let fear stop them. They felt the fear and moved anyway. You want to shock the world? You want to separate yourself? Then stop thinking so much. Stop doubting yourself. Stop waiting. Take action. Make a move. Because the winners who win in life are not the ones who win everything. They are the ones who do something. They are the ones who show up every single day and execute. And here's the truth. When you take action, you build momentum. When you take action, you gain confidence. When you take action, you prove to yourself that you are capable. But as long as you sit there thinking about it, as long as you sit there waiting, you're not growing, you're not progressing, you're just existing. And existing is not enough. Some of you have been talking about starting that business, writing that book, getting in shape, changing your life. But when are you actually going to do it? When are you going to stop talking and start moving? Because at the end of the day, you're either making progress or making excuses, and only one of those leads to success. You don't need more time. You don't need more information. You don't need more motivation. You just need to start. You need to take one step, and then another. And then another. And if you keep doing that, if you keep executing, one day you're going to look up and realize you're not the same person anymore. You're going to look up and realize you made it happen. So enough waiting, enough doubting, enough overthinking. It's time to execute. It's time to move. It's time to step into the life that's waiting for you. Because the only thing standing between you and success is action.
You say you want to be great, but are you willing to be uncomfortable? Are you willing to struggle? Or are you willing to feel the pain that comes with growth? Because let me tell you something, if you're not, you don't really want it. You like the idea of success, but you're not committed to the process. And that's why you're stuck. That's why you're not moving forward, because every time things get hard, you look for an easy way out. Every time things get uncomfortable, you stop. But listen to me, growth is never easy. Success is never comfortable. If you want to get to the next level, you have to be willing to go through the fire. See, most people run from discomfort. They avoid struggle. They back down the moment things get tough. But that's why most people never make it. That's why most people stay average, because the moment life applies pressure, they fold. They quit. They tell themselves, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe it's too hard. And they convince themselves that their excuses are valid. But the truth is, the only thing stopping them is their own mindset. The only thing holding them back is their refusal to embrace discomfort. You ever wonder why the greats are the greats? It's not because they had it easy. It's not because they were born with some special advantage. It's because when things got hard, they kept going. When they faced obstacles, they didn't turn around. They figured out a way through. When life knocked them down, they got back up every single time. And that's why they made it. Not because they were lucky, not because they were chosen, but because they refused to let discomfort stop them. You have to rewire your mind. You have to stop seeing struggle as a bad thing. You have to stop seeing discomfort as a sign to quit. Because the truth is, discomfort is the greatest gift you can receive. Discomfort means you're growing. Discomfort means you're pushing beyond your limits. Discomfort means you're doing something most people aren't willing to do. And if you keep pushing, if you keep fighting, one day you're going to wake up and realize that what used to be hard is now easy. What used to scare you doesn't scare you anymore. What used to seem impossible is now your reality. But that only happens if you stay in the fight. That only happens if you make the decision that quitting is not an option. Because every time you push through discomfort, you get stronger. Every time you refuse to quit, you build resilience. Every time you keep going, even when it hurts, even when it's hard, you separate yourself from the pack. And let me tell you something, most people won't do that. Most people will take the easy way out. Most people will settle for average, but you're not most people. You were built for more. You were built for greatness. You just have to decide that you're willing to do what it takes. So the next time you feel uncomfortable, the next time you feel like quitting, the next time life tries to break you, I need you to smile. I need you to embrace it. I need you to remind yourself that this is what it takes. Because if you can push through, if you can endure, if you can keep going when every part of you wants to stop, then nothing can break you. Nothing can stop you. Nothing can hold you back. And that's when you win. You want to know why most people never reach their potential. It's not because they aren't talented. It's not because they don't have the ability. It's because they lack discipline. They don't stay consistent. They start strong, but the moment they don't feel like it anymore, they stop. The moment it gets hard, they slow down. The moment life throws an obstacle in their way, they make an excuse. But let me tell you something, if you only work when you feel like it, you will never make it. If you only give your best when conditions are perfect, you will never reach the top. Because success doesn't belong to the most talented. It belongs to the most disciplined. It belongs to the ones who show up every single day, no matter how they feel. Some of you have been playing this game for too long with a part-time mentality. You want full-time results with part-time effort. You want the rewards, but you don't want the responsibility. You want the outcome, but you're not willing to be consistent with the process. And that's why you're stuck. Because you keep showing up for a few days, a few weeks, maybe even a few months, but the moment you don't see results, the moment it feels like nothing is happening, you quit. You get frustrated. You start doubting yourself. But what you don't understand is that the breakthrough only comes to the ones who refuse to stop. You ever wonder why some people seem to keep winning no matter what? It's not because they're lucky. It's not because they have something you don't. It's because they've built the discipline to keep going when nobody's watching, when nobody's clapping, when nobody believes in them. They don't need motivation because they have commitment. They don't need inspiration because they have discipline. And that's the difference. That's what separates the great from everybody else. You have to get to a point where your work ethic is not based on how you feel, where your effort is not based on whether or not people notice, where your consistency is not based on results showing up overnight. Because let me tell you, real success doesn't happen in a day. It happens when you show up day after day, week after week, year after year without stopping. And I know what some of you are thinking, but I'm working hard and I'm still not where I want to be. Listen to me, just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't happen. Just because you don't see results right now doesn't mean you're not making progress. Growth is happening. Change is happening. You just have to keep going long enough to see it. Because the truth is, most people don't fail, they just quit too soon. You have to train yourself to be disciplined even when nobody is holding you accountable, even when nobody is checking up on you, even when it feels like it's not working. Because at the end of the day, your results are a reflection of your habits. Your future is a reflection of what you do daily, not what you do once in a while, not what you do when you feel like it, but what you do every single day, no matter what. So what are you doing every day? What are your habits? What are you committed to? Because discipline is not about having motivation. It's about having standards. It's about setting a level for yourself that you refuse to go below. It's about deciding that no matter what happens, no matter how you feel, no matter what's going on in your life, you will still show up and give your best. And when you do that, when you develop that kind of discipline, when you build that kind of consistency, there is nothing that can stop you. Because talent fades, motivation comes and goes, but discipline is what makes you unstoppable.
There are too many people out here wasting time looking left, looking right, watching what everybody else is doing, comparing themselves, measuring their progress against somebody else's timeline. And that's why they're not winning. That's why they're not locked in. Because instead of focusing on their own journey, they're distracted by somebody else's. But let me tell you something, comparison is a trap. The moment you start looking at somebody else's life, somebody else's success, somebody else's path, you stop appreciating your own. You stop moving at your own pace. You start questioning yourself, doubting yourself, losing confidence in your own ability. You have noticed how when you're locked in, when you're focused, when you're doing what you're supposed to do, you feel good. You feel strong. But the moment you start scrolling, the moment you start watching other people, the moment you start looking at what they have, what they're doing, suddenly you don't feel like enough. Suddenly your progress doesn't seem fast enough. Suddenly your work doesn't feel good enough. And now you're discouraged. Now you're frustrated. Now you're questioning whether you're even capable. But listen to me, that has nothing to do with your ability. That has nothing to do with your potential. That has everything to do with where your focus is. Because when you focus on your own growth, when you focus on your own lane, when you focus on what you need to be doing, you move different. You think different. You operate at a higher level. The problem is some of you are too busy watching, too busy comparing, too busy trying to keep up with a race that was never meant for you. And you wonder why you feel stuck. You wonder why you don't feel motivated. It's because you've taken your eyes off your own path. You've lost sight of what really matters. But let me tell you something, somebody else's success is not your failure. Somebody else's journey has nothing to do with yours. The only thing you need to focus on is your work, your discipline, your progress. Because if you keep your head down and put in the work, if you stay committed to your own process, success will come. But it won't come if you're distracted. It won't come if you're watching everybody else. It won't come if you're constantly measuring yourself against people who aren't even on the same path as you. See, some of you are looking at people who have been grinding for 10, 15, 20 years, and you're frustrated because you're not where they are after 6 months. You're comparing your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 20, and you're wondering why you feel like you're behind. But listen to me, your journey is yours. Your timing is yours. Your success is yours. And as long as you keep working, as long as you stay locked in, as long as you refuse to get distracted, you will get there. You just have to stay focused. You just have to trust the process. You just have to remind yourself that the only competition is the person you were yesterday. Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Did you grow? Did you get better? Did you put in the work? Did you stay committed? That's what success looks like. Not keeping up with somebody else, not trying to impress people who don't even care, but waking up every single day, putting in the work, and knowing that no matter how long it takes, you are going to make it. So stop watching. Stop comparing. Stop worrying about what they're doing. Focus on your own path. Focus on your own growth. Focus on becoming the best version of yourself. Because when you do that, when you commit to your process, nothing and no one can stop you. You want to shock everybody. You want to make people stop and take notice. You want to walk into a room and have people wondering what happened. How did they level up like that? Then let me tell you what you need to do. You need to stay so focused, so locked in, so committed to your growth that by the time they realize what's happening, it's already done. By the time they look up, you've already changed. By the time they try to figure out how you're at it, you're already on another level. But that's not going to happen if you keep waiting for their approval. It's not going to happen if you keep trying to prove yourself to people who don't even believe in you. It's not going to happen if you waste your energy explaining your vision to people who were never meant to see it. Some of you are spending too much time trying to convince people that you're serious, trying to make people understand why you're moving the way you're moving. But listen to me, real transformation doesn't need announcement. Real success doesn't need validation. If you really want to shock them, don't say a word. Just show up every single day and do the work. Some of you are too focused on proving people wrong, too caught up in making a statement. But let me tell you something, revenge is a distraction. Trying to impress people is a distraction. Trying to get back at the people who doubted you is a distraction. The goal is not to prove them wrong. The goal is to prove yourself right. The goal is to become so great, so powerful, so undeniable that their opinions don't even matter anymore. You don't need them to believe in you. You don't need them to clap for you. Because when you really make it, when you really step into your greatness, the same people who doubted you will be the ones trying to figure out how to get close to you. You don't have to announce your moves. You don't have to explain your process. You don't have to justify your grind. Just work. Just build. Just evolve. Because when you stay consistent, when you stay disciplined, when you stay committed to the process, the results will speak for themselves. And when the results show up, when the transformation happens, when the world finally sees what you've been working on in silence, that's when you shock them. That's when you shift the atmosphere. That's when you walk into a room and people can feel that something about you is different. Not because you told them, not because you posted about it, but because you became it. So stop explaining. Stop seeking approval. Stop worrying about what they think. Just focus. Just execute. Just build yourself into the person they never saw coming. Because when you do that, when you elevate in silence, when you move with discipline and purpose, one day you'll look back and realize that the people who once questioned you, the people who once ignored you, the people who once didn't take you seriously are the same ones trying to figure out how you did it. But by then it won't even matter because you'll already be gone. You'll already be operating at a level they can't reach. And that's how you shock them.